Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, we're going to be reviewing John Wick Chapter 2. So if you guys are watching this video right now, you've probably seen John Wick 1 and you probably liked it. And I'm going to say that is mostly a criteria for liking the second one. If you don't like movies like the first one, you're not going to like the second one because it is essentially the same thing. A lot of it, I mean, there's new motives, new plot, new things like that, but it's basically the same thing as the first one. So if you like that one, this one's fine. And we'll get into what's good and what's bad about it. And if you didn't like that one, then this one will not be fine. Okay? So, going on, I think this one is a much stronger film than the first one. The first one does have that kind of it has that newness that movies often have at the beginning of a franchise. I don't even think it was planned out to be a franchise when it happened, so it's indicative of how good it turned out to be that we have a sequel. But it did. It turned out to be really good, that first movie. Keanu Reeves, as far as I'm concerned, is awesome. He seems to be a great guy in general and a pretty good actor. I think he has better acting chops than most people give him credit for, and he's really good at this kind of action movie. So the first one was basically a revenge movie centered around him where he shoots and fights a lot of people in a highly efficient way. Very entertaining. This one, we already knew what to expect, so it's a little bit less exciting, but I think it's a little bit more intense and probably a little bit better developed. It works really well, so I think even though it doesn't have that newness, which is you can't replicate, I think I liked it even more in a different way. Not the newness, but maybe higher quality. I think that's how I would describe it. So I think that's a good thing. So the thing about this movie is the first one was a revenge-motivated plot. He had no other purpose other than to get revenge on these certain guys. So once he did that, which he did at the end of the first movie, where are they going to go? So at the very beginning of this movie, they do tie into that just a little bit, just to kind of connect the two. They tie into it, and then that connection's basically over. I want to say this too. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'll spoil some stuff at the very end, so I'll let you know before I do it, so don't worry. If you haven't seen it yet, this will not spoil anything for you. So by the end of this first scene, which is the very first thing, before even the title card, they basically tie up the connection to the first movie. Title card, new movie, new plot. Now this one's not revenge. It's strictly it's self-contained motivation. Okay, so they kind of dive deeper into this whole underground world of assassins and killers and things, and the plot is entirely revolving around that. And it's really cool because we get to see him kind of do the whole hitman thing more so than just hunt somebody down in like a more passionate type of way. This is a little bit more systematic, and it's really nice to see those different elements of that underground world. They do a really good job of bringing it to life, and I appreciate that a whole bunch. We'll talk about that more in the spoilery part at the end. But it's really cool. It's interesting the way they talk about the suits he gets being bulletproof, and the different weapons and the money and the plans and all that kind of stuff. We get to see his whole process for conducting an assassination, and just how he does his whole thing. So that's really cool. So I like the plot in this movie. It's a little bit richer. It's a better plot, and there are only a few tiny plot holes, which I'm not even going to bother getting into because they don't really take away from the film in any big way at all. So very few plot holes. I like that a whole bunch. Okay, so let's talk about the writing just briefly. The writing is, I think, much stronger. The first one didn't need much because it was, like I said, just revenge. You don't need to talk about too much. You know why he's doing it, and he's going to go do it, and that's it. This one, there's a lot more weaving in and out of why this guy's doing something, who's involved. There's a lot more actual characters. While they aren't as important necessarily, you're not going to necessarily know all of their names because they don't really matter other than to fulfill their specific job. There's a lot more involved in this film, so I think that was pretty cool. It made it a lot more interesting, and we have a lot more exposition. Basically, the second quarter of the film, let's call it that, is a lot of exposition. So we start off with action, we get a little bit of explanation, and then the whole second half is pretty much more action, which I think worked out nicely. The pacing felt pretty good. The cast in this movie, we do lose a few characters, but they weren't super important in the first place, and some of them died actually in the first movie, so no big deal. But all of the established characters for the different hotel, or for the hotel positions, I guess, they're all still here. They're all as important as the first time. They're not good, they're not bad, they're just kind of there to move everything along, so that's nice. And then, like I said, there are new characters, and most of them, you're not going to know their names. I mean, they'll tell you, but you won't care. But they do a good job, so that's fine. There are a few important ones that we need to talk about, so let's do that. For most of this movie, there is a particular hitman, basically a bad version of John Wick. I mean, they're all kind of bad guys, but for the case of the movie, he's the antagonist. So we have him, and that's Common. Does he even do music anymore? I know he started doing music. Isn't that what he started doing? Anyway, he's in it. He doesn't do a bad job. He's kind of played the same role in a bunch of movies now, and he does a decent enough job. He doesn't look the best when he's doing the close quarters combat. I think mostly just because Keanu Reeves does it so well. It makes other people look like they don't know what they're doing when, in all reality, they probably don't as much as he does, because he has done a lot of training in martial arts. But he does fine. Common does a good job, and no problems. It's fine. Another character, we have Ruby Rose again playing another hitman type of assassin, but she's working specifically for the main bad guy of the movie. She's kind of an interesting character in that she's mute, I guess. I don't think she's actually deaf. They didn't really indicate that, but either way, she does sign language, and she fights a little bit, but she doesn't really serve a purpose other than to be like the main bad guy's bodyguard. So I guess she's just there for a little bit of extra color in the movie, but you know, she's fine. I don't think she has the best acting ability. She doesn't do a bad job, but she doesn't do a particularly good job. I don't know where she came from, but all of a sudden she's in movies regularly. I don't know. She's fine. It's okay. That's about it for her, really. Since she doesn't have to talk, she doesn't really even have to do much, so it's okay. That's about it. And then the other main character that we have to talk about is Keanu Reeves. I think he fits this role perfectly. It's basically The Matrix with less science fiction and more gritty, realistic martial arts and shooting. And he really pours himself into it. I've seen like behind the scenes stuff and listened to him in interviews, and everything he says, you can see it in the movie. You believe that he's doing this stuff. So he does a really, really good job in this film, maybe even better than the last one. Again, it doesn't really require a ton of acting depth for this role, but what he does have to do, he sells it, and it's really good. So I'm perfectly content with the casting and the roles that everybody had. The main bad guy, obviously, he's not a hitman. He's hiring the other one, so he does a good job being a bad guy, but I can't even remember his name right now, and I don't know the actor. He's not anybody I've seen before. At least not that I can remember. But he does a good job being a bad guy, so all around it's pretty solid. No real complaints at all. Now, as far as the action goes, which is obviously a big part of this movie, they nailed it again. They have some incredibly good choreography. I don't even know how they plan these scenes where they have to kill 50 guys in the span of 30 seconds, and they do it. I mean, somebody thought of that. I mean, there's probably more than one, I guess, but more than one person thinking, but the scenes are all good, and it's not like some of these movies where it gets boring because you've seen so much of the same thing. They're so interesting. The mix of the martial arts, like the jujitsu style takedowns and the shooting, and then the hand-to-hand combat. It's all interweaved. What is the word? Interwoven. It's all interwoven. That doesn't sound right. Maybe it is. I don't know. It's all mixed together very well. It's so exciting to watch these different scenes. It never gets boring for me. I don't think anybody who's going to see this movie, who obviously likes this type of film, is going to get bored watching this. It's so well done. The action scenes are fantastic. I love them. They're well paced out. You know, you have little breaks in the individual scenes, and then you have big breaks in between the overall scene. It's very nice. I love it. Very, very good. You might have been expecting a little bit of car action, as there was a fair bit of that in the first movie. That's pretty much just the opening scene that ties the old movie to this one, and it's pretty okay. The driving scenes are cool, but it's a little unrealistic because he gets hit a few times by other cars, and he crashes his cars into things, and he's pretty much all completely okay at the end of the scene, and not entirely realistic, but still pretty cool. Even the way they mix in the gunplay and the martial arts and the hand-to-hand and everything else with the car, it's very cool, very well done. So the action is top. I love it. I very, very much appreciate their effort and their dedication to making these scenes feel real. It looks like it's all really happening. They did a great job with that. As far as the plot goes, I guess we might get a little spoilery here because I'm just going to go right into the ending because it's all kind of tied together. So if you don't want to be spoiled, click away, come back after you've seen the movie, and then we'll talk in the comment section below. So we're going to start here with the potential spoilery stuff. One of the people that's higher up in this underworld of assassins and killers, he's at the very top. Well, he isn't, his sister is. And he makes John Wick, for various reasons throughout their whole culture, kill his sister so that he could take her place at the table. And that really starts the whole thing. There are some plot holes around this, but if you don't think about them too much, it's okay. So it doesn't really take away from the film. So anyway, that's a big chunk of the movie, is John Wick having to perform this assassination. And then after that, the guy who basically hired him to do it is trying to kill him so that nobody knows that he had his sister killed, even though pretty much everybody in this movie has all of the information they want all the time about anybody. So it's a little iffy there. But after he performs the assassination, the bad guy hires basically every other assassin / killer person to go after John Wick. And that's the rest of the film. He has to kill a bunch of people, fight a bunch of people, working his way up to try to kill the main bad guy. So big spoiler right here. If you want to avoid the biggest spoiler, is he kills the main bad guy. And he happens to do so inside the Continental, inside the hotel where they're not supposed to fight. So not only did he kill a person up at this top level of their culture, but he did it where he's not supposed to do it. So basically, he's out. He's no good. They've excommunicated him from the entire thing now, and now he has to survive. And that's the end of the movie. So I think that's a good direction. We know there's going to be a sequel. However, they spent a lot of this movie showing how he utilizes his whole culture, all these different positions within the assassination program. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it is. But people that have guns, people that have the armor, all this kind of stuff. That was a big part of what he's done so far. Now he has to do a whole new movie without any of it. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how this third one pans out. But it all worked together very well. I was not expecting a strong plot from this movie, and it was definitely strong enough to carry the action, and strong enough, I think, to keep people interested and to actually kind of feel like this is a real live place. This could happen, even though obviously it can't. It's very well conceived, and it works out very nicely. So ultimately, I'm very happy about it. I think you guys will probably like it, and I think people that didn't see the first movie might see this and then want to see the first one because it's really well done. Most sequels are a step down. This one's at least equal, so I'm very happy about it. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. Obviously, we talk about movies. We also talk about TV shows and video games and action figures and all kinds of popular culture type things. So make sure you come back for that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.